The reports that these child asylum seekers, they're going missing, about 200 of them apparently. In the Observer, it was saying that some of them have been abducted outside hotels, bundled into vehicles, and off they've gone. The Home Office is saying that it doesn't have the authority to detain these people. I use the word children, by the way, because that is what it's all saying everywhere. But if you ask me, I'm a little bit suspicious, to put it mildly, as to whether or not these are children in the first place. But anyway, David, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm a little bit suspicious as well. I mean, like you said, this story appeared in the Observer, so their whole narrative is to make us sort of sympathetic to the idea that there's a lot of asylum seekers coming over and they need help. But the figures of these 200 that went missing from Brighton is that 88% of them were Albanian. So they're not genuine asylum seekers. And then only 13 of them were under the age of 16. So that means 187 of them were between 16 and 18 officially, as they said. So many of them may have been adults as well. So they certainly don't need a lot of our sympathy. Probably what's happened is they've gone into the black economy, so on, that they were from Albania, that they prearranged to meet somebody and then disappeared. I mean, I certainly wouldn't be worried about mostly 16 to 18-year-old Albanians disappearing, not for their safety, but what I would be concerned about are the safety of British people who may come into contact with some of them who may have criminal intent. You know, and we saw, just a terrible story this week of the Marine, the Marine recruit in Bournemouth who was murdered by an Afghan migrant who was 18 and said he was 14. So there's loads of issues to do with security.
Was that the one that was also a double murderer?
That's right. He murdered a double murder in Serbia, yes.
Emma Burnell, I suspect you might, judging by your face alone, which if you're listening and not watching, you can't see a face, it's very unimpressed.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different things to unpack from what David just said. First of all, these are unaccompanied minors. We have a duty of care to them, whether we decide that they will stay in the UK or go back to Albania. Because they're children. That's what it's reported.
They say they are, but not necessarily.
I'm sorry, but until we know otherwise, let's assume that even if one of them is an unaccompanied minor, let's say that that's the policy that we should be working to, right? So these are unaccompanied minors. We owe them a duty of care, whether or not we decide to send them back to Albania or to give them asylum here. That's a separate question. But as we dehumanise these people who have been lost in our system,
Quick question. Do you think it's dehumanising someone? If someone gets on a boat, comes into the country and says, I'm 14... when you're not.
Well, I don't know. I don't know and you don't know. So until we do know, let's take the facts that we've been given in a reputable newspaper. They may have a slant towards compassion, oh no, how awful, but this is a reputable newspaper. If they're saying these are minors, they are almost certainly minors. They'll have fact-checked that. We are talking about minors who have gone missing, who are probably in the hands of the evil gangs that we've all agreed we should be trying to stop. We owe those kids a duty of care. If we decide that they don't have a valid asylum claim, that's a separate question, but it's not the same as saying these kids should just be sent off. And then you've got both this combination of the idea that they're A, working off in the black economy, and B, also a bunch of murderers. That's just baffling to me that you can hold those two ideas in your head at the same time.
They are two real issues that we've got in this country.
First of all, why don't we have a secure system that looks after these children properly, makes a decision as to whether they've got a valid claim or not, and then acts on it? When you say secure system,
what do you mean?
Well, I would say that first of all, we should not be having people going into hotels. That's a waste of everybody's resource. We should have a proper system. There should be valid, safe routes for people to come as they need to, and they can apply through those proper routes. The fact that we have people coming over in boats in the Channel is a failure of our system, not of people trying to get in illegally. It's because we don't have ways for them to come properly.
Lee Anderson, you might be familiar. I mean, you just laughed. You're preempting what I'm going to say. You must have heard his update. He says that some of these people...
Is he going to box them?
No, he's not going to box them. She's on about Steve Bray, that pest, the protesting pest. Lee Anderson has offered him a boxing match for charity. But no, he's not offering to box these people. What he was suggesting is you detain them. You detain them safely, securely, whilst you're doing all your checks and your balances.
Well, I would say, I mean, detain is a loaded word, but I do think there should be centres for these people to live, not in the horrific conditions we saw them, where they were catching these, like, tuberculosis, Victorian diseases, when they were in Manston.
Hang on.
But proper facilities whereby we can process this properly.
And
but they should not be coming in these numbers in the way that they are, because we should have safe and legal routes.
Gosh.
I mean, this is the bigger issue, isn't it? There's so much illegal immigration into the country, mostly from Albania and places where a lot of them coming through France, which is a safe country. So nobody coming from France is a genuine asylum seeker. So we need to stop the boats from coming from France and just push them back to France. And that would solve half the problem.
Well, you're not going to manage that, because a lot of them have connections to people in the UK. We are a country that takes asylum, and we're an island.
Well, we're not...
So we have to have a way of managing that process compassionately and legally and forcefully. Those three things should not be seen as in opposition to each other.
Well, I mean, the Border Force and the Royal Navy at the moment are escorting boats from the middle of the Channel to Dover. So that is the problem. The Border Force should be doing what the Border Force is supposed to do,
because we don't have a proper system to get them before they go to the boats. They should not be forced into the boats in the first place.
A safe country like France is not a genuine
We are
asylum
an island,
seeker,
and an island that accepts asylum seekers. Those two things mean that there are going to be people coming. We've largely stopped them coming through road and train routes, so they're coming by boats. That is what's happened. We are not having systems whereby they can apply for safe and legal asylum from other countries. Therefore, they're coming in desperation across the Channel.
Well,
that should not be happening.
The vast majority of people who are now coming across the Channel are coming from Albania. Like this story
40% of them, which is not actually a majority.
The 200 people in Brighton who've gone missing, as I said, 88% of them are from Albania. So they're not genuine asylum seekers.
Please call them children. Until we know otherwise, please call them children.
Well, not necessarily.
Can I ask you a question then? Because you're a very kind person. You're sitting there saying, oh, you know, we should take them at their word, da-da-da. When you read that story that made the press yesterday or the day before of some guy that said he was 14 and lied, he wasn't 14 at all. A, he was an adult. B, he was a mass murderer. He'd killed 2 people already. C, he'd been done for drug dealing. And then D, went on to kill someone else. Isn't there a part of you that sits there and goes, actually, maybe we do need to exercise a little bit of caution here?
I don't think we should have a lawless, ruleless society. I'm saying we should have good laws that we enforce well. That guy was a failure of our laws to be enforced well.
Do you know, but I get really frustrated with this, because I feel, Emma, with all due respect, you're always pinning the blame on this country, the facilities. It's like a minute ago you were just saying we should have these wonderful facilities, or these whatever words that you just use, these facilities.
Well, I said we should have facilities in which people don't catch tuberculosis, yes.
But where did this tuberculosis or whatever it was come from?
It came from the kind of conditions, the Victorian-level slum-like conditions that are where those kind of illnesses breed. That's the problem that we have. We are putting people into Victorian slum-like conditions and then wondering
they're not Victorian slum-like conditions.
They are. That's how you get tuberculosis.
Well,
that's literally how it happened.
I thought that a couple of these ailments, whatever these ailments were, and I think there were different ones, I thought they'd actually been brought via these people that were infected before arrival, and that's what had happened.
But you spread it by peeping people. You know, tuberculosis, we wiped it out in this country previously because we knocked down the slums. We are now putting people into inhumane conditions. However, we have to have rules. They have to be enforced. I've never argued against that, Michelle. I never have, and I never will. You know that.
Where do all these wonderful facilities come from?
The way that we enforce those is by having a system that works.
Where do all these wonderful facilities come from?
Well, for a start, you don't need quite so big facilities if you have safe and legal routes. But secondly, there are plenty of ways that we can do this. We just have to make sure that the system works better. And unfortunately, nothing in this country works, and that includes the asylum system.
David Kurten.
Yeah, unfortunately, you know, the country is full. There are no houses to put people in. If you are a British person and you want a council house, for example, you might be waiting 20, 30, 40 years. They're just simply all gone.
Well, we certainly need to build more houses.
hang on, Emma,
this is
don't
why
interrupt
there's a
him.
lot, you know, the people who are coming across illegally, there's nearly 50,000 last year, are coming because they know they get rewarded if they come to the country and get put into a 4- and 5-star hotels immediately. They get an Aspen card with £175 cash a week, as well as free board and lodging and so on. So these are all rewards people get for coming to the country, which is why more and more people are coming over, because they think, well, Britain is a soft touch. What we need to do is stop all of the benefits for people who are coming across illegally, and particularly for people who are not genuine asylum seekers, who are economic migrants from Albania and other places coming from a safe country like France. That needs to stop, and it can be done.
You guys are in touch. I mean, my inbox. What are you chuntering about, Emma?
I said it's a nonsense. We can't just pretend that these people aren't human and don't have rights.
I'm not saying they're not human, but if someone is coming to the country illegally, then they're taking advantage of the system.
If someone is claiming asylum, they have a right to claim asylum. While they are waiting for that asylum decision, which should be taken quicker, they should probably be working rather than claiming benefits. But we don't give them the right to do that.
Well, where do you stand on all of this? I've got to say, your primary concern seems to be the well-being and safety and all the rest of it of the people in the making the channel crossings. My primary concern is the well-being and the safety and all the rest of it of people who end up children in this country that end up in classrooms with men pretending to be children. My primary concern is not with the dude that's pretending to be a child, it's with the children in that classroom. It's with the foster carers that get these men in their home.
And they don't have to be. We are talking about a group of children. If there is somebody abusing that system, they should have the book thrown at them. But largely we are talking about vulnerable children. They are not in competition.
Well, do you know, I worry about this topic because I just feel that it's getting so out of hand now, and I do not see how anyone is going to get a grip of it. If this government wanted to have was serious, should I say, about getting a grip on all of these channel crossings, they would have done it by now, and all we're seeing is the numbers increasing. What do you think to it? What is the answer? I mean, that is the million-dollar question to all of this, isn't it? Safe and legal routes is what Emma's saying. Does that fix all of this? I don't know. You tell me. Judith says, can the general public of the UK sue the government for lack of management and care? Well, I tell you what, you talk about suing. There's some people that are doing quite well, actually, off all of this situation. That is the lawyers. I wonder if they want this bringing to an end anytime soon. Karen says, whether they are children or not, I doubt that our pathetic government will really put much effort into finding them. Andy says the vast majority of so-called child asylum seekers are in reality adults masquerading as children to prevent deportation. Emma's not having any of that. Even as I'm reading that out, she's muttering, saying that it's basically she disagrees with you. Simon says that we should not house migrants. We should house our own homeless people first. Adrian, the legal route for asylum seekers surely is to fly into a UK airport and present themselves to immigration. If your claim is genuine, you would be accepted.